Right, good afternoon, Year 4. So we're on to our history lesson. This is actually going to be hopefully quite a nice and quick one because we're just putting some events in order. Hopefully you've already got the attached events. So we're going to turn them into a timeline. So we're going to put them in order, one underneath each other, but we're not going to actually be using all of them. But anyway, before we get to that, I'm just going to explain something for you. So BC and AD. AD and BC. Sometimes you see years written like this: 2000 AD, 550 BC. So what do they mean? Because this is something that's quite often said wrong, and I am definitely guilty of saying it wrong myself, but it is said wrong because it might be easier to remember, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So AD means after Jesus was born. Some people like to think of that as meaning after death. And BC means before Jesus was born. So AD actually comes from the Latin Anno Domini, which means in the year of our Lord, so when he was born. So that actually means when he was born rather than when he died. And Jesus was actually 33 years old when he died, so that is why that is incorrect to say AD, meaning after death. But in the grand scheme of history, it's not a massive difference, just so you're aware that there is a difference. And BC means before Christ. Why can this be confusing? So, it's not simply the lowest number to the highest number. As strange as it may seem, 500 years BC, so before Christ, comes before 400 AD. Before Jesus was born. It's similar to minus numbers. So if you think of before Christ as being below 0 and plus numbers being AD above 0. It's similar to temperature. I find that a helpful way of remembering it anyway. Okay, so all BC events come before all AD events, as you can see quite easily here. The Iron Age, which we're learning about at the moment with the Celts, came a long time before the moon landings. Okay, so now it is time to do our work. So get your timeline out if you've got it printed off. Pause the video whilst you cut out your cards. Pause it now. Okay, so you should have separated out your cards, you should have cut them. Now it's time to separate them into a pile of AD and a pile of BC. I'll give you a second to do that. You can pause the video if you need any longer. Next, we are going to use only 8 of these cards, so don't worry about that yet. But we are going to put them in order, but not stick them down until you have checked them. Right, next thing I want you to do, get rid of any cards which are BC and higher than the number 2100. Pause the video while you do that. Get rid of any cards which are BC and higher than 2100. Pause the video. Excellent. Okay, so our first card we're going to use is that card, 2100 BC. It should say on that, Bronze Age begins. Okay, once you've found that card, excellent, move on to the next point. Pause if you need a few more seconds to find that card. Right, now we're going to find our next card. It will be another BC card. It will be the next highest number. So it will be lower than 2100, but it will be the number that is closest to that is a BC card. Find that. Okay, well done. If you've got 750 BC, the Iron Age begins. Right, now I need you to carry on putting those cards in order. So you need to find the next highest BC card after your 750 BC. And continue doing that. Pause the video here if you need some time to do that. Your last card will be the only AD card that we're going to use, and the one closest to 0. I'll give you a bit of a clue. Your last card is going to say, Romans invade Britain, but not Scotland. Celtic culture continues to develop here. That is going to be your last card, so you need to find all the cards in between. Okay, pause here if you're still organising your events, putting them in order. Okay, right, we're almost ready to check. Before you check, please write your LO at the top of your page where you're going to be sticking these down. So that's not the LO from the start of this PowerPoint, it's the LO written here, which is something we're going to do later on in the week with these cards. So on the top of your page, please write LO to write a brief history of the Celts. Don't forget that Celts is a capital C. They are a group of people, a proper noun, it needs a capital C, and we need a full stop at the end. Okay, once you have done that, you might need to pause the video to give yourself a second to do that in your beautiful cursive writing. Once you've done that, please make sure you're thinking about where you're going to stick your events. So I'd like you to stick them on the edge of your piece of paper next to where the margin would be. So you've got plenty of room the other side to do your writing later on in the week. Okay, so now we're going to check our order. If you've got any in a different order, please swap them around before you stick them on. So our first one should be, as I said earlier, 2100 BC, Bronze Age begins. Below that, your next one should be 750 BC, Iron Age begins. After that, number 3 should be 500 BC, Celtic tribes live across Europe. Number 4 should be 400 BC, iron is used by the Celts in Scotland. Number 5, 335 BC, Celtic tribes sign a peace treaty with Alexander the Great. Number 6, 100 BC, Romans' control grows across Europe. Number 7, 70 BC, Druids come to Britain. And finally, number 8, which I had already given you, but I'll just remind you again, is AD 43, Romans invade Britain, but not Scotland. Celtic culture continues to develop here. Excellent. Now you can stick them down if they are all in the right order. By the end of the week, we're going to have a timeline that looks a bit like this. So don't worry, all you should have at the moment is those events stuck in order. You might need to go across 2 pages like I have, that's absolutely fine. So that is what we are working towards, but don't worry, you don't need to do that by yourself. I shall be explaining how to do that in our other lessons. I hope that wasn't too confusing. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you all soon.